Hey everyone, I'm Michael, and this is another episode in my series, A Plant a Week. In this series, I talk about various houseplants. I highlight one for the whole video, talking about how to properly care for it, how to water it, how to propagate it, everything that you need to know to keep your plant healthy and happy. And today, we are talking about the jade plant. And man, is it noisy out here. This plant is Crassula ovata, more commonly known as jade. It's one of the more popular succulents and one succulent that can grow pretty huge given time and the right amount of sunlight. When big enough, jade plants can resemble large bonsai trees, and they're so cool looking with their fleshy green leaves and soft trunk. I've had my jade for about 2 years now, and I can't wait for it to become a big, thick tree. There's a YouTuber called Everything Plants who has some incredible jade plants. Go watch his videos. I was gawking in awe at the size of his jades. As a succulent, this plant retains water within its thick, fleshy leaves, and though it's easy to overwater them, they are pretty hardy succulents, and in my opinion, they're the best succulents you can buy to add to your collection. Although mine hasn't, jade do flower, but don't expect to pick one up and have it flower for you right away. Sometimes it takes years, and even then the conditions have to be just right. Crassula ovata, like all succulents, need a well-draining soil to stay alive. I keep mine in a mixture of potting soil, orchid bark, and perlite, heavy on the orchid bark and perlite. And make sure you let this plant go completely dry before watering it again. If it's been a while since its last watering, you might notice the leaves will become shriveled and dehydrated looking. Don't worry though, that'll change when you give it a good drink. On the other end of the spectrum, the leaves will sometimes get little black spots in the middle of it if it's being overwatered or it's not being watered properly. This plant's needs for water will also change depending on how much light it gets. Right now I have mine outside in full light, and that means watering it about once every 4 days. As a succulent, this plant requires bright light in order to keep it happy and growing. If it's in too dark an area, you'll see some stretching happening as the plant thins out and the space between leaves widens. When you have this plant in full sun, the edges of this plant get really red and a kind of burnt look to them, but don't worry, it's perfectly normal. And when you move it back inside under a grow light or to a spot that doesn't get as much direct sun as other places, the leaves will fade back into this bright green that you can see in the center of the leaves. As for fertilizing, you want to feed it once every 2 weeks during the growing season. You can get fertilizers specifically made for succulents, and you can use that, or you can use just regular organic fertilizer like I use. It doesn't need to be a high-strength fertilizer. This jade isn't too fussy when it comes to food. Propagating Crassula ovata is very simple. There are 2 ways to propagate this plant, by stem cuttings and leaf cuttings. When you stem cut, you take a portion of the plant and set it into soil. Where you cut, the plant will push out 2 or sometimes more new branches. In this way, you can prune your jade plant to your desired shape. Eventually, I want to turn this little bush into more of a tree. When taking leaf cuttings, simply pop off the leaf and set it on top of soil. Eventually, roots will push out of the end of the leaf and a new plant will emerge. Crassula ovata and all jades are toxic to dogs and cats. While only mildly toxic to humans, I don't suggest putting it in your mouth. To be honest, I'm not really one for succulents. I have some, but the fact that they stay really small and compact just doesn't really interest me. I want plants to be huge, beastly things that I can get lost between. That's probably why the jade plant is one of my favorite succulents, because with time, and I mean a lot of time, this little jade can become a super cool looking, fleshy-leaved tree. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for similar content. On Mondays, I post videos about houseplants, and on Fridays, I also post videos about houseplants, and reading, writing, photography, art, and any other generic interests of mine. As always, you can find my social media links in the description below. Also, you can find links to H&H Games, the board game company I've helped create, and our debut board game, Season of Heroes. You can also find the Amazon links to my fantasy series, A Chronicle of Crowns. Thanks for watching, bye!